Okie doke. So good morning, everybody. Today we're going to continue with our lessons and we'll be working on lesson 6. We'll start with that. Before we do anything on the lesson, I need to remind everybody that you need to change your root folder from lesson 5 to lesson 6. This is where we left off with lesson 5. We built that basic framework upon which everything else on this website will be built. This is what it will look like when it's completed. Okay. This is the basic framework, basic underlying structure of the page that we built the other day. So I'm going to close this just so that I don't get confused, and I'll leave this up. But what I need to do, and this is what you should do with every lesson, is you go to site and you go to manage sites. Make sure that you have created a site first, and you should have for lesson 5. And this is mine for this semester, Art 196, Spring 2021. So I want to modify its root folder. So I double click on that. Leave the site name the same. But I need to change the location of the root folder. Now, normally, and I'll repeat this every time, with your own personal root folder, you do not change it. It's just an odd thing that we have to do with the lessons because each lesson is self-contained and is really like its own personal website, its individual website. So I'm going to click here on that folder. And I've already done this, but you can see that I've switched from lesson 5 to lesson 6. So that's the root folder. And this is everything that I have in my root folder that contains that. So I'll select choose. And then you need to go to advanced settings. And under local info, we need to select the image folder that's contained inside that root folder. Now it will look the same as the one inside lesson 5. So it's easy to make a mistake. So make sure that lesson 6 is selected under the folder and then select the image folder contained within that folder. Now I can click save. I can select done. And on yours, it should update and should see a little folder like this for your root folder, and you can click the little twirly here to see all of its content. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to open the file titled Mylayout.html. That's what they have provided for us. And lo and behold, when you look at it, it looks just like the file we finished in lesson 5. And it is. Okay, so what we're doing is we're building upon the previous lessons. Okay, if I click up here, you'll notice that it says div row. Okay, you'll leave that. If I click down here in the next row, it'll say header. Remember, we named this because this is going to be our header. The top row or the first row is going to be reserved for our navigation bar, and that's what we're going to work on today. That's probably about as far as we'll get. And then the third row contains 3 columns. Now, this is the main row, and you'll notice that I can't really see in here. I can't see those individual columns. So and that happens from time to time. So in order to select them, what I need to do is I need to come down here and I need to select, if I want the aside selected, I need to make sure that it is selected here. And I can come over here and I can, in the tag selector, make sure that it is selected. Now, if I'm having troubles, so that happens. Let's go back and select the aside. Okay, let's, I don't know why, but I am. Let's try the article instead. There we go. So now the article is selected, and let's click on the right side. There we go. Sometimes with web design, things don't always function as planned. So it took me a couple of clicks here, but I'm using the DOM, and you can see under main row, you can also twirl up and twirl down, that it contains 3 columns, okay? And then the last row is the footer. Okay, that's what we did the other day. So what I want to do now is we're going to proceed and insert a Bootstrap navigation bar, and we're going to modify it and tailor it to our needs, to customize it for our lesson. And we need to do the following. What I prefer to do when I'm working is to make sure that I'm working in split view. So I'll do that. And I'm going to have, you'll notice that I have div, and it's dot column small 12. Remember, all by default, we have 12 units. And we look at the main column or the main row, it's divided into 3 columns, and each column by default then is comprised of 4 units. This always has to add up to 12 for this to work. So what I would like to do in order to insert, so let me move this down here, is I want to insert, make sure that I have Bootstrap components selected. Okay, not HTML, but we're inserting Bootstrap components. Okay. And before I do that, before I insert, if I scroll down here, you'll notice that I have a basic nav bar right here. It's underneath the buttons and the button drop-ups, that sort of thing. It's a nav bar, basic nav bar. That's what I want to insert in just a minute. But before I do, I need to get rid of this div that says column small 12, because the Bootstrap component will occupy the entire row. So I can either go to the code view, and you'll see that it is selected, it's highlighted in gray. And I can go ahead and I can hit the delete key and see if that removes it, and it does. Now, if it doesn't, then what you need to do is you need to select that. Let me undo that. Okay. So what I need to do is, you'll notice that the opening tag for it says div class row, and then I have sandwiched between the closing tag for that div, I have div class column small 12. That's what I want to get rid of. So I can also, and sometimes you'll find, I just prefer sometimes just going into the code view and highlighting that and deleting it. And now what I want to do is, this is the location where I'm going to put the nav bar. So I'm going to scroll back down here where it says basic nav for nav bar under the Bootstrap components. I'll click on that, and you'll notice that this little pop-up appears, and I want this to be nested within that div. So the new nav bar needs to be contained within that div. So I want it nested, and I'll go ahead and I'll say yes. And don't show again, and I'm good to go. We should be good to go. And there you go. Here's our brand new nav bar. And if I go ahead and I scrunch this down like so to a teeny tiny little phone size, you'll notice that I have the little hamburger symbol, and that would enable me to, if I had it previewed in a browser, I could click on that and that all of my navigation would appear. So what we're doing is we're creating something that is responsive right from the get-go. Okay. And to code all of this by hand would be a real pain, to do it time after time after time. So instead, we're just using a Bootstrap component. It's already built for us, but you'll see shortly that there's a lot of unnecessary elements that we just don't need. So what I'm going to do is, we don't need the drop-down menu. We don't need this link. We don't need this submit button and the search. We don't need this drop-down. And then we're going to build upon that. And then we'll, hopefully by the end of the class, we'll start adding styling to this, customize it. You can leave this as is. It would be a little kind of generic looking with a white background or a light gray and the gray text, but we're going to dress it up a bit. That's the whole point of this, is to take the basic structure and Bootstrap components and then apply a CSS style sheet to it that will leave the HTML intact. It will leave it with a proper syntax. We can add whatever content we want, but we're going to style it and place background images and adjust the text and that sort of thing, make the fonts to our desire, what we desire. So I'm going to start here, and I should probably start by saving this. So instead of where it says My Layout, okay, I'm going to save this as My Layout Spring 2001, 21 rather. So, because I don't want to change the original one, I want to leave it intact. Again, you kind of run the risk of when you screw things up, and I do that all the time, of changing some things that make it difficult to go back. So instead of My Layout, I'm going to name it My Layout, and I'm going to use the camel casing, Spring 2021. Okay. So now I have the original My Layout left intact, and I have mine on top of it. Okay. Now we can see that that is not good. Let's go back here to Files. Did it save it in the right place? It didn't. It didn't save it in the right location. So I need to go back. Let's go, let's undo. Let's go back. I'm going to go back, and hopefully I can go back. And I say I make mistakes all the time. So I'm not sure. Here's my source code. I've been split view. So let's undo a couple times. Yeah, see, all of that is not reading correctly. And that is not good. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And let's go back to this again. So instead of My Layout, I'm going to go to File, Save As, and make sure that it's in the right location. And it is in lesson 6. So why it didn't save it there, I don't know. So, because I don't see it. Oh, it is in there. So let me cancel that. Let's open that back up, My Layout 2021, and see if it works. Nope. So you know what I need to do? I need to, when you see it like this, and this is part of the troubleshooting that you may have to encounter, and I hope that this works for us. But what I need to do is I need to switch to CSS Designer. And you'll notice that I have here Bootstrap. And I'm thinking, well, that is what governs the appearance of this. So why isn't it viewing it? It's probably attached to the wrong Bootstrap in a different folder. And so if that's the case, I'll go ahead and I'll remove this one. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add sources. And I want to attach an existing CSS file. So I'm going to link it, and I'm going to browse to find the correct one. And I'm crossing my fingers, hopefully that this works. So I need to go back into lesson 6. Okay. And I need to go inside CSS, and I need to select that Bootstrap CSS, and I'm going to open it. And I want to link it, not import it. Click OK. And there you go. That fixed it. That was the problem. It was linked to a Bootstrap cascading style sheet, but it was one that was outside of my root folder. How that happened, I'm not sure. Okay. So I can go back to Files to make sure that this is all saved. And you can tell that a file has not been saved because there's a little asterisk next to the file name. So now if I hit Command S, or better yet, If you hit Command S, it only saves the HTML page. It does not save the CSS. So very often what you want to do is say save all. So that saves everything. You know, it will save any CSS, it will save the HTML, it will save jQuery, you know, JavaScript, anything like that. So now I'm ready to go. I have my original, my layout intact. I have the new one that I've just created with my default menu in here. So now we're ready to get rid of a few things. We don't need all of this, as I said. So we're going to start from the right and work to the left. I'm going to click where it says drop down. And then I don't want all of that. I just want to click that. And then I don't want the entire body tag. Let's click in here. So sometimes, again, this gets a little bit difficult to select. I just want the drop down. So there we go. Now when I have, you'll see down at the bottom here, I have all of these tag selectors. So I'm going to go ahead over here and select drop down to make sure that all of it is selected. Okay, that entire block of code. So with that drop down selected, I can now proceed. There's the drop down toggle. I want the drop down. Let's see about the next one over and see if that one will help me too. Yeah, because I don't need this link either, and that will be the next step. So now that they're, you know, that both of these are selected, I can do it in one fell swoop. And with it selected, and I can see in the code view it's selected, I can hit the delete key. Come on. Why aren't you selecting? So let's go ahead and make sure that it's all selected. As I said, sometimes this is a little bit difficult to select. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to go back to the unordered list. And that's not working for me. So again, this is just quirky. This is part of Dreamweaver and working in here. So I don't want the drop-down toggle selected. That's part of the code. I want the drop-down itself. So I have all of that selected. There we go. So with all of that selected and highlighted, I'm going to go ahead and hit delete. Come on. Well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to go for this list item where it says class dropdown. I'm going to select all of this, including, well, I want the whole UL unordered list, this class here, this drop-down menu, and I'll do it from here. And then I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to go from live view to design, and I'm going to come back to live view and see if it's fixed. And you can see I still have some things here that need to get rid of. It says action, another action, something else. So I don't like how I'm doing this. I'm going to undo all of this and bring it back. And instead of live view, since I'm having trouble with this, I'm going to switch. I'm going to make sure that it's selected in here. And again, this is just part of this. Sometimes it becomes an issue. Okay. Why? I don't know. I don't want the whole thing. I'm having troubles with this, selecting this. So I want the whole drop down, this list item selected. And I'm going to switch to live view, from live view to design view. And sometimes you have to do that just to see. And with that selected, maybe I can delete it now. And now I can go back to live view and go back and see if it's been removed. Come on. No, I didn't want that because it got rid of everything. Not good. I'm having a really tough time today. And I don't know why. Let's see. So I'm going to go back to the unordered list. It's the nav bar with the right selector again. Okay. This is acting very quirky for me today. I apologize. So with it selected, that unordered list, okay, I don't want the whole unordered list selected. I just want, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and select. Yeah, when it's in orange, outline in orange, then that allows you to edit the individual elements, but I don't want it in orange. I want it in blue. So if I select, there we go. Let's select that A list. Now let's try and do it that way. There we go. So that works for me. So I'll click the link now. I want to get rid of that link. So make sure that that's highlighted in blue, not in orange. Orange allows me to edit it. The blue allows me to add a class. It allows me also, and you'll notice that it is highlighted here in the list item, and I can go ahead and I can get rid of that. And here's this entire list item here. So this is a little bit of cleanup that I need to get rid of here. There's the opening and the closing tag for the list item. So I'm getting rid of that. The next step is we need to get rid of the list item for dropdown. Okay. So I'm going to, let's click up here and let's see this submit button here. And then let's go back over here and see if I can't get rid of the whole, I don't want that. I'm having such a hard time with all of this. I want the input, but I also want the entire form div to be selected. So that entire form div is selected, and that should, if I get the whole form, come on, let me go back here, and there's one more to select for that entire form. There we go, because I want the submit button to be removed as well. So while it's highlighted, the entire form button, including the submit button, is highlighted in blue. And you can see that I have the opening and closing tag selected. That whole thing needs to be selected. I can get rid of that. Okay, so I'm gradually just, it looks like I'm getting rid of everything, but I'm not. Because when I collapse this, it will be ready for the web, for a smartphone. One more thing that I need to get rid of, and then I'll be able to add some links, edit some links, and I'll be able to clean up some of the code that we have. So the next element is the drop down. Later on in one of the other lessons, we are going to go back and we're going to add a drop down menu, and that gets a little tricky too. Again, this is all kind of quirky. So I'm going to get rid of that drop down menu. And now I'm going to edit the links. Okay. So the first thing to do, I can click in here and I can highlight this one. And this one I want to be my home link. And you can see that we have list item. It says active and it has href. Href refers to what we use for links. And you can see the whole, the little octothorpe or hashtag or whatever that's in here in quotes. That's used as a placeholder for links until we actually add one that will link to another page. Okay. We also have the span tag that we're going to get rid of too shortly. So, but right now I just want to add some links. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this, and you can either do that here or you can do it in design view. If I come back here, so let me come down here. Sometimes in design view, things get kind of quirky sometimes. And I'm going to switch back from design view to live view because that's just not working for me. And I'm going to click on the first one. Make sure that's highlighted in orange. And now I can name this home. Okay, so I've renamed it from a generic link to my home link. The next one that they want us to create is, I think it's about us. I have to refer myself to this and see what they want us to make. No, it's green news. So I'm going to click on the next link, and it's highlighted again in orange, not in blue. And I can change it from there, or let's go ahead and do that in code view where it says link. And I'm going to highlight it there, and I'm going to type in green news. There we go. And then as soon as I do that, you'll notice that it updated here in our live view. So now what we need to do is we're going to create, some more links, because we want more than just home and green news. We're going to use several of them. What I find it easiest to do is to take this last one, this list item under an unordered, since they're using an unordered list to develop this nav bar. And I'm going to highlight in here in the code view the entire list item from the opening to the closing tag. And I'm going to copy it. Then in the code view, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the return key. And I'm going to go ahead and paste. Okay, and you'll notice that I have a couple of green news. And I'm going to hit the return key after that one and paste again. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we want about 6 of them, if I remember correctly. So after green news, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the next one, okay, that I created. And let's see what names they want us to put in here. I got to refer to this myself. So I'm going to use, the next one will be green events. Okay, so instead of green news, the next one will be green events. So you have to have planned in advance, what pages you need. And that's what we're doing. We're creating a basic template for our subsequent pages that we'll create. The next one here after green events will be, let's see. I think it's green travel. Making sure my spelling is correct. And then we're going to have green tips. So green tips. You'll notice that they're all changing up here. Well, that's good. What else do we need after green tips? We need contact us and about us. So I guess I need to make a couple more of these guys here. So I'll hit the return key and I'll paste. And I'll hit the return key and I'll paste. And so here we want about us and contact us. And contact us. Okay. Now, watch what happens when I remove this little placeholder. Remember I said that the it's technically called an octothorpe, but you might want to call it a £sign or a hashtag. That if I remove one of these, if I remove one of them, let's remove it for green events. So as soon as I remove that, watch what happens. Come back up here. Come on. Let me go ahead and go back to design view. And then let's go back to live view and see if it refreshes it. And that's not good because it's not showing the error. So I need to come back in here and under green events. And I need to go ahead, and it's assuming that that's going to be a link that we will be using, but you normally need that octothorpe inside there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save the page, make sure that everything is updated. And I have some of my basic links intact, but before I go and I start working with the CSS designer, I need to get rid of some and clean up some of the code here. So you'll notice it under brand, okay, that is the active tag that was created, and we don't want an active tag. So the class here where it says class active, I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. And I'm going to leave that right bracket there, but where it says class active, I get rid of that. And you'll notice it takes that little rectangle away from the brand. And actually, we probably don't need that all, together altogether. So we could get rid of that brand div altogether. But I think what I should have done is I should have named this one has class Navbar brand. So I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. There we go. And that's not right. So I'm going to probably get rid of the whole thing. I'm just going to get rid of that whole button. So yeah, there's some stuff that I have to get rid of here. And they've added some stuff here that I'm not familiar with. And that's could be a problem for us. So we've got some new stuff going on here. So let me refer to the book here because we want class active to get rid of that. That was one of the things that we were supposed to get rid of. So let's make sure that we're in split view. And under the first one, class active, maybe did I already get rid of that one? Let's make sure that I have that. There's our nav bar. I'm going to get rid of this. This list item right here and try again. That's the home one. I don't want to get rid of the home one. Come on, where am I here? Let's look at this. I want to get rid of the brand is what I want to get rid of. So let's go ahead and I guess I could leave it, but I don't think I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try that again. And I'm going to highlight class Navbar brand. And that's what I wanted to get rid of. There we go. So it has changed a little bit from what was done before. And I also need to get rid of this span tag. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that span tag after the home. So I don't need that span tag. Get rid of that. So do your best to follow this because the newest version of has changed a little bit with regard to so that works okay. Am I missing anything here? You have all of this other stuff in here that you need to leave alone. Class, Nav Bar, collapse. Yeah, you want to make sure that all of these other things remain intact. Now I have a list item here for drop down, and I don't want, that's a remnant from that drop down menu. And I need to get rid of that. So I'm going to get rid of that. That should be okay. I'm going to undo that. That's not right. I'm going to bring that back. My apologies. They've changed some stuff here. So let's come back in here. And I may have goofed things up. But let's see how this looks when this gets collapsed. And that works. So I'm good so far. So let me click in here on one of these guys and see what I have. Okay. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to highlight all of this to see where I'm at in my code. And I'm good there. Okay. I think I'm good. We'll find out soon enough. And if I've goofed up, then I will have to start over. And I'll do that on my own, and I'll show you where I've fallen short. So far, so good. So the next step is that we want to change the appearance of this. Okay. So then ultimately we want our nav bar to look like this one up here. So we need to start by creating what is called a style sheet. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to switch and I'm going to come over here to CSS Designer. And we do have Bootstrap CSS, but normally Bootstrap is, I mean, there's a whole bunch of Bootstrap rules that are already in place, but they should be non-editable or uneditable, whichever the correct term is, that you shouldn't be able to edit them. So if I click in here and let's see what we have in green tips. And I want to make sure that all of this works. Okay. Okay. This is a bit different. Yeah, I keep saying that, don't I? This is the new Bootstrap, and it's different from what used to be. So, okay. Well, I'm going to leave it in here as is for the time being. So let's go ahead and create a new style sheet in order to begin to customize this. So what I want to do is under sources here, style sheets, we have Bootstrap, but we want to add our own custom style sheet to this. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus sign here. And I want to create a new style sheet. And I'm going to call it My Styles or Mine Green Styles. .css. And I want to link it to this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. Okay. And there we go. But we don't have any styles in here. But this is where we begin to make our changes here. Now, if I were to go back to the Bootstrap, and if I were to resize some of this and go down to another media query, and I were to select an appropriate media query, let's go ahead and select one of these down here. Let's go all the way down to the very bottom. Okay, and you'll notice that there are other media queries that under Bootstrap they have created. If I create one of these, for example, the first one where the size is 768 pixels, notice that it has .LED or LED, and then for font size, leading 21 pixels. Okay, so they already have a lot of things already in place for us that we don't want to tinker with. And what we're going to do is we're going to build upon that now. So and it should be no, reading, no writing for all of those, as I just mentioned. So I just created my new custom linked style sheet. And so now what I want to do is I want to start, if I can, start styling this. So let's start by creating one for the entire nav bar. And I'm going to create one for the background image. So what I need to do is I need to come over here and let's go ahead and select the whole nav bar using the tag selector down here. And I've been having trouble with that. So let's go ahead. And I don't want that. I need to click the one over this entire div. There we go. So this whole one is selected. And now what I want to do is I want to, under new mygreenstyles.css, I'm going to go ahead and click a brand new selector. And you'll notice that it's already created a name for me. And it's called .nav, navbar, nav, list item A. Well, I don't want that. I want to make one for a generic. So I'm going to use instead .row space .navbar hyphen default. And I'm going to hit the return key twice. Okay. Now, when I click on this selector, notice that the entire nav bar has been highlighted in blue. That's what I want to see. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to change the background color. So to do that, I'm going to come over here and we have that selected. I'm going to turn off show set because I don't have anything yet. And if I turn off show set and I make sure that I have all of them selected, then I can, from here, I can change the layout properties. I can click here for type and I can change the type properties for this. I can change the border properties and the background properties. And that's what I want to change right now is the background for this. And the generic background that we're going to use for this is going to be a blue. And later on, we'll be adding to that a gradient, and we'll be adding a background, background gradient, which is new to CSS. It's with CSS3. So I'm going to go ahead here, and we should be able to see this change on the fly. And they want us to use the hexadecimal number 069. So I'm going to hit under hexadecimal here, and hexadecimal numbers were created at the very, if you're not aware of this, at the very beginning of web design. And they were, because there were a limited number of colors available on both, that looked the same on both the PC and the Mac, they created this set of colors called hexadecimal numbers, or that were defined by hexadecimal numbers that are universal to both platforms. So the one that we're going to use is hashtag or octothorpe 069. And that is a blue. Okay, and you can see it's already been added to this from what I've done before in here. So I've added it and I can go ahead and close. And notice that the background has changed to blue. We've overridden using our style sheet, the default CSS. Okie doke. So the next thing that we want to do, and I think that's where we'll have to end today, is we're going to add borders to this. So let's see if I can do that. What I want to do is, if I look at this start sheet here, you're going to notice that each of these buttons appear to have kind of a very slight three-dimensional property to it. And we do that by using the box model properties of CSS and changing the colors and the properties of the borders to create that illusion or that effect. And then we'll also later on in the exercise create a hover state so that when we hover over the button, that it changes the properties again and it will change the background gradient. So that's what I want to do. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here to mine. And we need to create a new selector for this. Okay, so what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select with one of these selected. Let's go ahead and select the A, for example. And I'm going to go ahead, and it doesn't matter which one. And what I want to do for this now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new selector under here. And this is similar to what I want, but not quite. I want row, because I need the row first, because that defines what I'm doing here. So this is dot row space dot nav bar nav. And then what I want to do is I want to put a right caret after list item. And then I need a, whoops, no, I need to use the capital, right caret, there you go, list item, and then right caret A. Okay, hit the return key twice. Now let's go ahead and click on it. And it's difficult to tell if this is changing or not. Okay, so we'll find out in a minute if what I have selected is correct, because normally if I deselect that and I just click on that, it's difficult to tell if any of these have been highlighted yet or selected. And you can see they already have a hover state. When I hover over them, they switch to black, but we're going to be changing all of that. So again, we want to just change the borders here to see how they look. So now that this is selected, we select the border option over here. So that's this one. And remember I said that you could have a uniform border around everything or no border, or I can change the top, the right, the bottom, and the left to be different. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with the top. Okay. And the top is going to be solid. So I want the style to be solid. I want the width to be 1 pixel. I need to make it in pixels. So I want 1 pixel. 1 pixel. I can hit the tab key for that. And the color, I want the color to be, let's go ahead and click on here. And I'm going to go ahead. I want it to be 0AE. How do I know that? Because that's what the book is telling me. Okay. It's a light blue. It's this one right here. So I'll go ahead and I'll add that. And I'm going to go ahead and click here. And you may be able to see it and maybe not. So we have that selected for the top one. Now we need to change the one for the right. So I'll select the right one right here. And very similar, I want the width to be in pixels, and I want it to be 1 pixel. 1, hit the tab key. Style to be solid. Okay, and the color this time, it's going to be a deep dark blue. So I want it to be hashtag 037. 037. So that's that really deep blue. And I'll go ahead and I'll add that to my And let's see if that changes it. And you can see that this is working to the right. You can see that that blue has been added. We don't see the top one yet. So at the bottom, to create this illusion of a 3D meat property, the bottom one is going to be the same as the one that we just created. So again, width in pixels is going to be one pixel. Hit the tab key. Style is going to be solid. Okay, and the color is the one that we just created, that really dark blue. And that will be there. So we're gradually changing that, and we have one more to change now. We have one to the left, and that's going to be that light color that we just created. So again, very tedious, but you have to remember that once all of this has been created and saved, this will become a template for all the rest of our pages, and we won't have to make it again. And if you decide that you use this as a template for a different website and you want different colors and you want different fonts and that sort of thing, you use this existing one and you just go into the style sheet and you change those basic colors, and that's it. And then you're done. You don't build this from scratch again, because as you can tell, this is not fun. This is really kind of tedious. It is fun when you get it to work. When you don't get it to work, then it drives you nuts. So again, width is in pixels. I want this to be 1 pixel. I want, oh, come on. It needs to be in pixels. Again, when you're clicking on these and trying to get them to work, they don't always work the way you plan. I want it to be solid. And I want the color to be that light color that I just created. I think it's this one. And there you go. Okay. So now we're gradually changing this. So we have a bit more to do. We need to center this. We need to change the hover state. We need to change a lot of the properties. But we're gradually getting this, styled to our, our taste. That looks consistent with the rest of the website that we're prepared to build. That's really pretty much all the time that we have for today. So I will leave off here and we'll continue with this on Thursday, unless you guys have any questions for me. Any questions? Have I totally confused all of you? This, when watching me do this right now, is very tedious. And you'll have to follow along in the book or review the video that I'll be posting and take it step by step. And I may have, it's looking correct so far, but I may have, because of the new Bootstrap, I may have made a slight error here. So we'll see. So that's our source code, and I think I'm good to go. Okay. So no questions? Nobody? No? Let me go ahead and pause for a minute. Yeah, so this is all the time that we have for today. It's very tedious. It's time consuming to build your initial website from the ground up. Once it's built, make sure that it is all saved and that you don't want to throw it away because if in the future, should you decide, and you will be creating your own, for this class, you'll be creating your own Dreamweaver website. You're going to want to use it as a template. So you'll leave all the basic structure and content intact, and then replace it with your own content. And then you're going to go back in and you're going to change the look and the appearance of it by just changing the style sheet. Nothing more than that. Okay. So we're good for today. And if there aren't any more questions, you guys are free to leave. And then when I see that everybody's gone, I'll pause and we'll see everybody on Thursday. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is overwhelming. Yeah, Jasmine, this can be really overwhelming. It's very technical. And if you don't have experience with coding, and believe me, I'm not a coder. I know enough to be dangerous. And that's all I have to say. My son is a computer, coder. He's a hacker. So this would be his forte. It's not mine. Mine is design, but I know enough to do this, and that's about it. So, okay. So have questions for me on Thursday. Okie doke. Okay. Have a good day, everybody.